Alara Voss was supposed to bring wedding cake samples tonight. Instead, she walked into her fiancé's penthouse and heard her entire future being dismantled by the man she loved and the sister she trusted. But she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She pressed record. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't tears, it's evidence. And what she captured on that phone would either save her empire or destroy her completely. If you want to see how far a woman will go when she loses everything, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city, so I can see how far this story reaches. Don't. The rain came down in sheets, blurring the city lights into watercolor streaks across Alara's windshield. She sat in her car outside Darian Hale's building, staring at the ridiculous pink boxes stacked on her passenger seat. 7 different wedding cakes: vanilla bean, red velvet, lemon lavender, chocolate ganache. Each one a tiny perfect square, wrapped in tissue paper like promises. She was 20 minutes late. Traffic had been hell, and the bakery had taken forever because apparently choosing between buttercream and fondant required a doctorate. Alara grabbed the boxes, balanced them against her hip, and made a run for the entrance. The doorman waved her through without question. She'd been coming here for 2 years, first as Darian's girlfriend, then as his fiancée. The penthouse key felt heavy on her ring next to the engagement diamond that cost more than most people's cars. The elevator climbed 43 floors in silence. Alara checked her reflection in the brass doors. Mascara slightly smudged, hair frizzing from the rain, but presentable. Darian wouldn't care anyway. He'd probably be on his laptop closing some deal, barely looking up when she walked in. The penthouse was dark when the elevator opened directly into the foyer. That was strange. Darian usually left lights on, claimed darkness reminded him of the years before he made his fortune, back when he couldn't afford to waste electricity. Darian? She set the cake boxes on the marble console table. I'm sorry I'm late. The bakery was insane, and then there was this accident on... A sound stopped her. Low, intimate, coming from down the hall. Alara's stomach went cold. She knew that laugh, had heard it 1,000 times across dinner tables, at family gatherings, during late-night phone calls when one of them couldn't sleep. Livia, her sister. Alara's feet moved before her brain caught up. Down the hallway, past the guest rooms, toward Darian's master suite. The door was half open, spilling amber lamplight across expensive hardwood. Can't keep doing this. Darian's voice, rough with something that definitely wasn't stress. She's going to find out. So let her. Livia's voice, sharp and bright. You're the one who proposed. I told you it was a stupid idea. The merger required it. Her father won't sign over the shipping contracts unless his precious daughter is properly secured. Yes, Darian, I know. You've explained it 40 times. Fabric rustled. Footsteps. But we both know you're not going through with the actual wedding. Alara's hand found her phone. Her fingers were shaking, but they remembered the pattern unlock, found the voice recorder app, hit the red button. 3 more months, Darian said. Just until the ink dries on the merger paperwork. Then we'll handle it. Handle it how? Livia's laugh was cruel. You going to break her heart gently? Send her off with a nice severance package? I'm going to make sure she can't contest anything. The prenup is airtight, but her father's will isn't. If we play this right, if we're patient, everything transfers to her when he dies. And if she's my wife when that happens, you get it all. Livia's voice went soft, pleased. Community property, brilliant. Not if she inherits before the wedding, that's the risk. Marcus Voss is 72 and his heart is garbage. Could go any day. Then maybe we speed things along. Silence. The kind that has weight. Livia, I'm just saying, one bad medication interaction. A little too much bourbon with his blood pressure pills. These things happen to old men, Darian, especially old men under stress. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about timing. There's a difference. Alara's phone nearly slipped from her hand. She caught it, pressed it against her chest, felt her heart trying to punch through her ribs. If we do this, Darian said slowly, it has to be clean, no trail. Nothing that points back to us. It won't. I've been researching. There are ways. Quiet ways. Livia paused. Besides, Alara won't question anything. She's too trusting, too soft. She'll cry at the funeral, lean on you, and never suspect a thing. She's not as soft as you think. Please, My sister can barely send back a wrong coffee order without apologizing 6 times. She's not going to She's smart, Livia. Don't underestimate her. Smart at running charity galas and picking out napkin colors. Not smart at seeing what's right in front of her face. And footsteps again, closer to the door. If she had any real instinct for this world, she'd have figured out months ago that you can't stand her. Alara stepped back. The floor creaked. Everything stopped. Did you hear that? Darian's voice went sharp. It's an old building. Relax. Check the hallway. Alara ran. No thought, just pure panic. Back down the hall, into the guest bathroom, door closed, lock turned. She stood in the dark, phone still recording, listening to her own ragged breathing and the footsteps in the hall. Nothing. Livia's voice, muffled now. You're paranoid. I'm careful. There's a difference. Their voices faded. Alara waited 2 minutes. 3. Then she killed the recording. 12 minutes, 43 seconds, and opened the bathroom door. The penthouse was still quiet. Still dark except for that spill of light from Darian's room. She could walk in there right now, confront them, scream, throw things, demand explanations she didn't actually need because she'd just heard everything. But then what? Alara looked at her phone, at the recording that proved her fiancé was planning to marry her for money, use her to access her father's empire, then probably, kill her father to speed up the inheritance. And her sister. Her own sister was helping him. If she confronted them now, what would happen? They'd deny it, gaslight her, maybe even handle her, the way they wanted to handle her father. Alara's hands stopped shaking. She walked back to the foyer, picked up the cake boxes. All 7 of them, still perfect, still wrapped. She took the elevator down, walked past the doorman who called out something cheerful about the weather, and got into her car. Then she sat there in the parking garage, under fluorescent lights that buzzed and flickered and played the recording back. Her father's voice came to her, something he'd said years ago when she was 16 and upset about a friend's betrayal. Information is currency, Alara. The person who knows more always has the advantage. Always. She'd thought he was being dramatic. Marcus Voss was always dramatic, came from building a shipping empire from nothing, from decades of outmaneuvering competitors who underestimated the poor kid from the docks. But he'd been right, and right now, Alara knew something Darian and Livia didn't know she knew. That was power. Her phone rang. Darian. She stared at his name on the screen, let it ring 4 times, then answered. Hey, sorry. She made her voice light, easy, the voice of someone who hadn't just heard her entire life collapse. I'm stuck in traffic. This rain is crazy. Where are you? He sounded normal, concerned even. The performance was flawless. About 20 minutes out. I have the cakes, though. I know you wanted to try them tonight, but if it's too late, it's fine. Actually, something came up. Work thing. Can we do this tomorrow? Of course. Alara looked at the cake boxes. At her reflection in the rearview mirror, mascara smudged, hair ruined, diamond ring catching the light. Tomorrow works. You're the best. Love you. The words were so easy for him, so smooth. Love you too, Alara said, and ended the call. She sat there for another 10 minutes, just breathing. Then she forwarded the recording to 3 different email addresses, her personal backup, a secure cloud service, and an old account she barely used. Insurance. Her father had taught her that too. Always have insurance. Alara drove home in the rain, past the bakery with its cheerful pink awning, past the restaurant where Darian had proposed 6 months ago, past all the landmarks of a future that no longer existed. Her apartment was dark and cold. She'd been spending most nights at Darian's place, so her own space felt abandoned. She dropped the cake boxes on the kitchen counter and poured herself a drink. Bourbon. Neat, the way her father drank it. Then she pulled up every file she had on Darian Hale. He'd been careful about his past, she realized now, looking through old emails and photos. Always vague about his family, his childhood, the years before he'd exploded onto the business scene. She'd thought it was because he was self-made, proud, didn't want to dwell on poverty. Now she wondered what he was hiding. Alara opened her laptop and started digging. 3 hours later, she had a profile. Darian Hale wasn't even his real name. He'd changed it legally 8 years ago. Before that, he was Darian Kozlov, son of a mid-level enforcer for the Volkov family. East Coast crime, mostly money laundering and protection rackets. The Volkovs had been crushed 5 years ago in a federal sweep. Most of the family went to prison. A few disappeared. Darian had apparently been smart enough to get out before it all went down, reinvent himself, build a legitimate business empire. Except it wasn't entirely legitimate, was it? Alara kept digging, found shell corporations, offshore accounts, transactions that didn't make sense unless you assumed the money was being cleaned. Darian wasn't just a businessman. He was still connected to that world, just better at hiding it now. And he wanted her family's shipping contracts because they'd give him access to international routes, clean ways to move dirty money across borders. She sat back, rubbed her eyes, looked at the time. 4 a.m. Her phone buzzed. A text from Livia. "Missed you at dinner tonight. Dad was asking about wedding plans. Call me tomorrow?" Alara stared at the message, at her sister's smiling profile picture, both of them at the beach last summer, arms around each other, laughing. How long, she wondered. How long had this been going on? She didn't answer. Instead, she opened a new browser tab and searched. Victor da Costa. The name had come up in her research on Darian. Apparently they had history, bad history. A deal gone wrong, territory disputes, the kind of rivalry that turned personal. Victor da Costa ran half the city's high-end real estate. Casinos, hotels, luxury developments. He was ruthless, connected, dangerous. Exactly the kind of man her father had always warned her to avoid. He was also the one person Darian genuinely feared. Alara found a photo from some charity event. Victor in a tailored suit, dark eyes, expression that gave away nothing. He looked like someone who'd heard every lie, seen every angle, and stopped being impressed decades ago. She'd met him once, briefly, at a fundraiser. He'd been polite but distant, the way powerful men are with people they don't consider threats or assets. What would he do, she wondered, if she walked up to him with proof that Darian Hale was planning to muscle into shipping routes that might interfere with Victor's own business interests? Her phone buzzed again. Darian this time. "Sweet dreams. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Alara looked at the message, at the recording file on her screen, at the research she'd compiled on Victor da Costa. Information is currency. She opened her contacts, found the email for Da Costa Industries, and started typing. The response came faster than she expected. Not from Victor himself, but from someone named Teresa Moss, executive assistant. Professional, brief. Mr. Da Costa is willing to meet. Thursday, 8 p.m., the Meridian Club. Come alone. That gave her 2 days. Alara spent them preparing. She compiled everything, the recording, the financial research, the evidence of Darian's connections to the Volkov family. She made copies, backups, stored them in safe deposit boxes, and with her attorney under sealed instructions. If something happened to her, it would all come out. She also went to dinner with Darian, smiled at him across the table, let him hold her hand and talk about honeymoon destinations. She tasted wedding cakes and pretended to care about the difference between ivory and champagne for the table linens. She had lunch with Livia, listened to her sister complain about their father's stubbornness, watched her lie with every breath, and she didn't break. Didn't give anything away. Turned out she was better at this than anyone thought, including herself. Thursday night, Alara told Darian she had a girls' night, spa, wine, the usual. He barely looked up from his phone. The Meridian Club was old money and old power, the kind of place that didn't need a sign because if you belonged, you already knew where it was. Alara gave her name at the desk, and a silent attendant led her through wood-paneled halls to a private room in the back. Victor da Costa was waiting. He looked the same as in the photos. Tailored suit, dark eyes, expression giving nothing away. But in person, there was something else. A presence. The kind that came from decades of being the most dangerous person in any room. "Miss Voss?" He didn't stand, just gestured to the chair across from him. "You said you had information I'd find valuable." Alara sat. Put her purse on the table. Designer, expensive, the kind of accessory that marked her as someone's daughter, someone's fiancée, someone decorative. She hated that purse suddenly. "Darian Hale is planning to acquire my family's shipping contracts," she said. No preamble, no build-up. "Through marriage to me, inheritance from my father, and potentially expediting my father's death." Victor's expression didn't change. "That's a serious accusation." "I have proof." She pulled out her phone, played the recording. He listened to all 12 minutes and 43 seconds. Didn't interrupt. Didn't react. just listened. When it ended, he sat back. You could take this to the police. And say what? That my fiancé talked about speeding along my father's death? No crime has been committed, no concrete plan. Just talk. Alara met his eyes. Besides, I don't want Darian arrested. I want him destroyed. Something shifted in Victor's face, not quite a smile. Why come to me? Because he's afraid of you. Because you have the resources to dig deeper than I can. And because those shipping routes he wants, they overlap with your interests in the port district. You've done your homework. My father taught me to. Alara leaned forward. I know what you are, Mr. DaCosta. I know what you do, and I know that if Darian gets control of international shipping routes, it creates problems for you. What do you want in return? Protection, for me and my father. And when this is over, I want a seat at the table. What table? Whichever one you sit at. Now Victor did smile, small, sharp. You're Marcus Voss's daughter, I can see it. Is that a compliment? Your father is one of 3 people in this city I genuinely respect. Yes, Miss Voss, it's a compliment. He picked up his drink, something amber, probably bourbon. What you're proposing is dangerous for both of us. I know. If we move against Darian, he'll retaliate. He has connections, resources. So do you. And if I agree to this alliance, there's no backing out. You understand? Once we start, we finish it. Alara thought about the recording, about Livia's laugh, Darian's casual discussion of murder, the future she'd imagined crumbling into something ugly and sharp. I understand, she said. Victor studied her for a long moment. Then he set down his drink and extended his hand. Welcome to the table, Miss Voss. She shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and somehow the most honest thing anyone had offered her in days. Call me Alara, she said. The plan came together over the next week. Victor's people dug deeper into Darian's background, found more evidence of money laundering, connections to organized crime, deals that violated about 15 different federal regulations. They compiled it all into a file thick enough to end careers. But they didn't move. Not yet. We need the right moment, Victor explained during one of their meetings. Always late at night, always at the Meridian Club. Maximum impact. Right now, Darian has allies, supporters, people who'd rally around him. We need to isolate him first. How? There's a gathering. 3 weeks from now. The summit. Alara knew about the summit. It happened once a year, invitation only, where the city's real power players met to discuss ventures, territories, alliances. Her father had attended a few times, but always came home tight-lipped about what was discussed. Darian will be there, Victor said. So will everyone who matters. Every major player, every potential ally. And you're going to walk in on my arm. Alara blinked. What? Right now, you're Darian's fiancée. The sweet daughter of Marcus Voss, arm candy for a rising businessman. Nobody sees you as a player. Victor's eyes glinted. But if you show up with me, publicly align yourself with me, it changes everything. It sends a message that you're not just a pawn, that you have your own power, your own connections. It'll also tell Darian something's wrong. Exactly. He'll panic, make mistakes, and while he's scrambling to figure out what you know and what you've told me, we'll be 10 steps ahead. It was risky, reckless even. Alara loved it. When do we start? She asked. Now, from this moment on, you need to be seen with me. Dinners, events, business meetings. We build the narrative that you're not just Marcus Voss's daughter, you're a power in your own right. Over the next 3 weeks, Alara became someone she barely recognized. She met with Victor's associates, lawyers, accountants, fixers who operated in gray areas of the law. She learned how money really moved, how deals were structured, how power was traded in back rooms and quiet conversations. She also started appearing at Victor's side, first at a gallery opening, then at a restaurant launch, then at a private auction where art and influence changed hands. The gossip started immediately. Whispers about Alara Voss and Victor DaCosta. Speculation about what it meant. Some people assumed an affair. Others thought business alliance. A few saw it for what it was, a declaration of war. Darian noticed. I've been seeing photos, he said over dinner one night. His voice was light, but there was an edge underneath. You and Victor DaCosta, what's that about? Alara had practiced this. kept her expression innocent, slightly confused. He's been mentoring me. Business advice. Dad suggested it. Your father suggested you spend time with Victor DaCosta? He said I should understand how the real players operate, not just charity boards and fundraisers. She reached across the table, touched his hand. You're always so busy with work. I wanted to learn more about your world. It was a good lie. Believable. Darian visibly relaxed. Just be careful, he said. Victor is complicated. He's not someone you want to owe favors to. I'll be careful, Alara promised. Later that night, she texted Victor. He bought it, but he's nervous. The response came back immediately. Good. Keep him off balance. The summit was held in a mansion outside the city. Old estate, sprawling grounds, the kind of place that looked like a movie set. Alara arrived with Victor, stepping out of his car in a dress that cost more than her first car. Security was everywhere, discreet, professional, but unmistakably armed. Smile, Victor murmured as they approached the entrance. Like you own the place. She did. Heads turned when they walked in. Conversations stopped. The room was full of the city's elite. Politicians, developers, casino owners, tech moguls who'd made fortunes and now wanted power to go with it. And there, across the room, was Darian. He saw her immediately. Saw her with Victor. His expression went through several stages, confusion, anger, calculation, in about 3 seconds. Alara met his eyes, smiled, and turned away. That, Victor said quietly, is how you start a war. The evening was a performance. Alara worked the room with Victor, meeting people she'd only read about. Everyone was polite, but she could feel the assessment happening. They were trying to figure out who she was, what she represented, whether she mattered. By the end of the night, she'd made sure they knew. She talked business with a casino owner, discussed shipping logistics with an import/export CEO, debated city development with a real estate mogul. She wasn't Marcus Voss's sweet daughter anymore. She was Alara Voss, and she had her own plans. Darian cornered her near the end of the night, when Victor was across the room in conversation. What are you doing? His voice was low, dangerous. Networking. Isn't that what these things are for? With Victor DaCosta. Why? I told you. Business mentorship. Alara tilted her head. Why does it bother you so much? Because he's dangerous, because he has agendas, because... Darian stopped himself. I'm trying to protect you. From what? He couldn't answer that without admitting things he didn't want to admit. Just trust me, he finally said. Victor DaCosta is not someone you want in your life. Noted. Alara touched his cheek, the gesture affectionate, performative. I should get back. We'll talk tomorrow, okay? She walked away before he could respond. Victor was waiting by the car. How did he take it? He's rattled. Perfect. They drove back to the city in comfortable silence. When Victor dropped her off, he said, You did well tonight. Better than I expected. Is that another compliment? Don't let it go to your head. But he was almost smiling. The real work starts now. Darian knows something's wrong, but he doesn't know what you know or how much you've shared. That uncertainty, that's our advantage. What's next? We wait for him to make a mistake. And he will. Desperate men always do. Alara went up to her apartment and poured herself a drink. The same bourbon her father drank. The same bourbon she'd had the night she discovered the truth. She thought about this girl who'd walked into that penthouse 3 weeks ago with cake samples and a future planned out. That girl was gone. Changed. Maybe destroyed. Maybe reborn. Her phone buzzed. A text from Livia. Are you insane? Victor DaCosta? What are you thinking? Alara stared at the message. Her sister. Her own sister who'd planned to help murder their father. She typed back, I'm thinking it's time I learned to play the game. Why? Does it worry you? The response took 3 minutes. Just be careful. These men are dangerous. So am I, Alara typed. Then deleted it. Wrote instead, Thanks for caring. Talk soon. She finished her drink, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow, Darian would start investigating. He'd ask questions, call in favors, try to figure out what she'd told Victor and what alliance they'd actually formed. And while he was looking one direction, Victor's people would be moving in another, building the case, securing the evidence, preparing for the moment when they'd bring everything crashing down. Alara's phone buzzed again. Victor this time. Sleep well? The war's just getting started. She smiled. For the first time in 3 weeks, maybe for the first time in years, Alara felt like she knew exactly what she was doing, and it felt dangerous. And right. And absolutely perfect. Darian started calling at 7 a.m. the next morning. Alara let it go to voicemail while she sat at her kitchen counter with coffee and her laptop, reviewing the file Victor's team had sent over overnight. More evidence. More connections. The web was bigger than she'd thought. Her phone buzzed again. Text this time. We need to talk. Today. She waited 10 minutes before responding. Busy until 3. Coffee then? His reply was immediate. My office, 2:30. Not a request, a command. The old Alara would have rearranged her schedule, apologized for not being available sooner. The new Alara, the one who'd walked into the summit on Victor DaCosta's arm, sent back a single word. Fine. She spent the morning at her father's office. Marcus Voss looked tired when she walked in, older than his 72 years, but his eyes were still sharp. You made quite an entrance last night, he said without preamble. Alara closed the door behind her. You heard. Half the city heard. My daughter, publicly attached to Victor DaCosta. People have questions. What about you? Do you have questions? Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her. I have observations. 3 weeks ago, you were planning centerpieces and seating charts. Now you're networking with the most dangerous man in the city. That's not a small change. Things happened. What things? This was the moment. She could tell him everything, play the recording, show him the evidence, let him handle it the way he'd handled every threat to their family for 5 decades. But that would make her the victim again, the daughter who needed rescuing. Darian isn't who I thought he was, she said carefully. And I needed to understand the world he operates in, the real world, not the version I've been seeing. So you went to Victor. You've worked with him before. You respect him. Respect and trust are different things, Alara. I know. She met her father's eyes. But right now, I need someone who understands how power actually works. Someone who won't treat me like I'm breakable. Something shifted in Marcus's expression. Pride, maybe. Or concern. Possibly both. Your mother would have liked this version of you, he said quietly. She always said you had more steel than people saw. Alara's mother had died when she was 12. Cancer, fast and brutal. She barely remembered her now except in fragments. Perfume, laughter, the sound of heels on marble. Darian wants to meet this afternoon, she said, changing the subject before it got complicated. He's nervous about the Victor situation. As he should be. What are you going to tell him? Nothing real, just enough to keep him off balance. Marcus nodded slowly. Be careful. Cornered men are unpredictable. I will be. She left before he could ask more questions. Before he could see the recording file on her phone, the evidence she'd compiled, the full scope of what she was actually doing. He'd find out eventually, but not yet. Darian's office was downtown, 48th floor, glass and steel and aggressive minimalism. His assistant smiled at Alara like nothing had changed, like she was still the sweet fiancée who brought homemade cookies at Christmas. He's expecting you. Go right in. Darian was standing at his window when she entered, looking out at the city. He didn't turn around. Close the door. She did. I've been thinking about last night, he said. About you and Victor. About what it means. It means I'm learning the business. Bullshit. Now he turned. His face was calm, but his eyes were cold. You don't learn business by becoming someone's accessory at private gatherings. You don't network with Victor DaCosta unless you have something he wants, or he has something you need. Alara sat down, crossed her legs, kept her expression neutral. Maybe both. Explain. You're always working, building your empire, closing deals. I wanted to understand that world better. So I reached out to Victor through my father's connections. He agreed to mentor me. Mentor you in what exactly? Investment, strategy, how to read people, how to move money. She tilted her head. Why does this bother you so much? Because Victor DaCosta doesn't do favors without expecting something in return, and I don't want you owing him anything. Like I owe you? The words came out sharper than she intended. Darian's expression flickered, surprise, then something harder. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'm just wondering why it's fine for me to be attached to you, but not to anyone else. Why your business connections are legitimate, but mine are suspicious. Because my connections aren't going to use you. And you won't? Silence. The kind that feels like free fall. Darian crossed the room, sat on the edge of his desk directly in front of her. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive, familiar, suddenly nauseating. Alara, I love you. Everything I'm doing, everything I'm building, it's for us, for our future. She thought about the recording, about him discussing her father's death like a business transaction, about Livia's laugh. I know, she said, and made herself smile. I'm sorry. I'm just stressed about the wedding, and I thought learning more about your world would help me be a better partner. Relief washed across his face. He believed her, or wanted to badly enough that the lie worked. Just be careful with Victor, he said. Promise me. I promise. He kissed her forehead. The gesture felt like ownership. When she left 20 minutes later, after talking about the wedding, about his latest deal, about nothing that mattered, Alara went straight to her car and sat there breathing until her hand stopped shaking. Her phone buzzed. Victor. How'd it go? He bought it, barely. Good. Meet me at Rossi's at 7. Time to escalate. Rossi's was an Italian restaurant in the Old District, family-owned for 3 generations, where the food was incredible and the back room was where real business happened. Victor was already there when Alara arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 other people she didn't recognize. Alara Voss, meet James Chen and Patricia Moreau. They work for me. James was young, Asian, sharp-eyed. Patricia was older, blonde, with the kind of stillness that suggested she'd seen things that would break normal people. They've been investigating Darian's operations, Victor continued. Tell her what you found. James pulled out a tablet. Darian Hale has been running a sophisticated money laundering scheme through shell corporations in Delaware, Panama, and the Caymans. The money originates from various sources, organized crime mostly, and gets cleaned through legitimate business transactions. Real estate, tech investments, art sales. We already knew that, Alara said. We knew the broad strokes, but James found something else. A recent deposit, $15 million, traced back to a holding company owned by the Kozlov family. Alara sat forward. The Kozlovs were destroyed 5 years ago. Most of them were, but some survived. And they're rebuilding, slowly, quietly. Darian has been helping them, providing clean channels for their money in exchange for a cut in protection. Patricia spoke for the first time, her voice low and precise. The Kozlovs don't forgive, and they don't forget. Darian turned on them once, testified against his father to save himself. The only reason they're working with him now is because he's useful. The moment he stops being useful... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. There's more, James said. We found communication between Darian and Livia going back 8 months. They've been planning this for a while, the engagement, the merger, everything. 8 months. Alara felt something cold settle in her chest. She'd been engaged for 6 months, which meant they'd started planning before he even proposed. Show me, she said. James scrolled through emails, text messages, encrypted chat logs. The evidence was damning. Discussions about her father's will, speculation about his health, debates about timing, and Livia, her sister, contributing ideas, suggesting methods, laughing about how easy it would be. We also found this. Patricia slid a document across the table. Darian's been in contact with a pharmacist, someone who's willing to provide medications that could interact badly with your father's current prescriptions. Alara picked up the document. Read it again. This is attempted murder. Pre-conspiracy, technically, Victor said. He hasn't acted yet, but the intent is clear. We could take this to the police. We could, but prosecutors like slam dunk cases. Right now, this is emails and speculation. Good defense attorney could argue it's just talk, and Darian has good attorneys. Alara set down the paper. So what do? We let him keep digging, keep building evidence, and we make sure that when he finally makes his move, we're ready to burn him completely. Victor leaned forward. But there's something you need to understand. If we do this, if we really commit to taking him down, there's no going back. You'll lose people, friends who don't believe you, family members who think you're being paranoid or vindictive. Livia's already gone, Alara said. She chose her side. What about your father? If this goes public, when it goes public, the scandal will touch your family too. My father can handle scandal. What he can't handle is his daughters betraying him. She looked at each of them. How long until Darian makes his move? Hard to say. Weeks, maybe. A month at most. He's getting pressure from the Kozlovs to deliver results. Then we have a month to prepare. To prepare for what exactly? Victor asked. Alara thought about her wedding, about the venue they'd booked, the invitations being printed, the guest list that included every powerful person in the city. I want to expose him publicly, she said, in front of everyone, at the wedding. James and Patricia exchanged glances. Victor just studied her. That's theatrical, he said finally. It's also effective. Every major player will be there, every potential ally, every business partner. If we expose him then, in that setting, there's no recovery. No spinning it. The humiliation alone will destroy him. It'll also put a target on your back. The Kozlovs don't appreciate public embarrassment. Then we make sure they're implicated too, that the evidence doesn't just show Darian's crimes. It shows his connections. Make it toxic for anyone to defend him. Victor smiled, actually smiled. You're learning fast. I have good teachers. Alara looked at the tablet, at the evidence spread across the table. But I need more than evidence. I need leverage. Something that makes sure Darian can't retaliate even if he wants to. What are you thinking? His connection to the Kozlovs. If we can find proof that he's actively helping them rebuild their operations, concrete proof, not just financial transactions, we can bring federal charges. Make it about organized crime, not just money laundering. Patricia nodded slowly. That would work. RICO statutes would apply. We'd need evidence of a pattern of criminal activity, communication showing coordination. Can you get it? Given time, yes, but it's risky. If Darian realizes we're digging into his Kozlov connection specifically, he'll know someone told you about his past. He already suspects I know something. We just keep him focused on the wrong thing. Over the next 3 weeks, Alara lived 2 lives. In one, she was still Darian's fiancée. She went to dress fittings and tasted wine and discussed flower arrangements with a wedding planner who was far too enthusiastic about peonies. She had dinner with Darian's business associates and smiled through their congratulations. She met with Livia to discuss bridesmaid duties and listened to her sister lie about loving her. It was excruciating, but necessary. In her other life, the real one, she worked with Victor's team to build an unbreakable case. James and Patricia dug deeper into Darian's connections, finding evidence of money laundering, conspiracy, fraud. They traced payments, recorded conversations, compiled a file that would bury him. And Alara learned. She sat in on meetings with Victor's attorneys, his accountants, his fixers. She learned how to read financial statements, how to spot shell corporations, how to follow money through layers of legitimate and illegitimate transactions. She learned how power really worked. One night, after a particularly long meeting, Victor poured her a drink and said, "You're different than when we started." Better or worse? Harder to manipulate, which, in this world, is better. Alara sipped her bourbon. You ever regret it, this life? Every day. But regret doesn't change anything. You play the hand you're dealt, and you play to win. What if winning costs too much? Victor looked at her for a long moment. Then you decide what you're willing to pay, but make the decision consciously. Don't let it happen to you. 2 weeks before the wedding, Alara's father called her to his office again. He looked worse, grayer. His hand shook slightly when he picked up his coffee cup. I saw the doctor yesterday, he said without preamble. Heart's getting worse. He wants to put me on new medication. Alara's blood went cold. What kind of medication? He named it. She recognized it from Patricia's research, one of the medications on Darian's list, the one that could interact fatally with what her father was already taking. Dad, who prescribed it? Darian's personal physician. He recommended I switch to his care. Said the man's the best in the city. Of course he did. Don't take it, Alara said. What? Don't take the new medication. Please, trust me. Marcus set down his cup. Alara, what's going on? She could feel the moment crystallizing, the choice between protecting him through silence or protecting him with truth. Darian's trying to kill you. The words hung in the air like smoke. Her father didn't react, didn't look surprised, just sat there, watching her with those sharp eyes. Show me, he said finally. Alara pulled out her phone, played the recording, showed him the emails, the evidence, the whole conspiracy laid out in documents and transcripts. Marcus listened to it all. When she finished, He sat back in his chair and was quiet for a full minute. "How long have you known?" he asked. "5 weeks. And you didn't tell me." "I needed to handle it myself." "By allying with Victor da Costa and building a federal case." "Yes." Another silence. Then her father started laughing. Quiet at first, then louder. Not the laugh of someone amused, the laugh of someone who's had his suspicions confirmed. "I knew," he said finally. "Not the specifics, but I knew something was wrong. Darian was too eager, too accommodating. Men like him don't marry for love." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I wanted to see what you'd do. If you'd run to me to fix it, or if you'd fix it yourself." Marcus stood, walked to his window. "Your mother, she was like you. Everyone thought she was decorative, beautiful but breakable. But she was the one who really ran things. I made the money, but she made the decisions." Elara had never heard this before. "She died before she could teach you everything she knew," Marcus continued. "I tried, but I'm a blunt instrument. You needed finesse, strategy." He turned back to her. "Victor's teaching you that. Are you angry?" "I'm proud. And I'm staying on my current medications, obviously." "Dad, this is serious. If they realize, let them realize. I'm a 72-year-old man with a bad heart. They'll think I'm paranoid, senile maybe." He smiled. "But you and I both know I'm neither." They spent the next hour planning. Marcus had his own resources, his own contacts. He made calls, set things in motion, added his weight to the case Victor's team was building. By the time Elara left, the trap was set. They just needed Darian to walk into it. The next night, Elara had dinner with Livia at their usual place, a bistro downtown where they'd been meeting for years. Her sister was already there, looking perfect as always, scrolling through her phone. "Hey!" Livia stood up, hugged her. "I feel like I haven't seen you in forever." "Wedding planning is consuming my life," Elara said, sitting down. "How are you?" They ordered wine, talked about nothing, and then Livia said, "So I heard Dad's switching doctors. That's good, right? Darian's guy is supposed to be amazing." Elara kept her expression neutral. "Actually, Dad decided to stay with his current team. Doesn't like change. You know how he is." Something flickered across Livia's face, just for a second. "That's too bad. Darian was really confident about this doctor." "I'm sure Dad knows what's best for him." They talked more. About the wedding, about Livia's job, about a vacation they should take together. Normal sister conversation, except nothing about this was normal. When Elara got home, she texted Victor. "Livia knows about the doctor. She brought it up. They're definitely monitoring the situation." "Good," he replied. "Let them worry." 10 days before this wedding, everything accelerated. Darian started acting strange, paranoid, checking his phone constantly, having hushed conversations that stopped when Elara entered the room. He postponed 2 meetings with her father, claiming work emergencies. The Kozlov connections Patricia had been tracking went dark. Either they'd been warned, or they sensed danger. "We need to move faster," James said during a meeting at Victor's office. "They know something's wrong." "But how much do they know?" Elara asked. "Hard to say. But Darian's been reaching out to allies, shoring up support. He's preparing for something." Victor drummed his fingers on his desk. "Then we trigger the endgame early, before they're ready." "How?" "The rehearsal dinner. 3 days before the wedding. Everyone important will be there. We release everything then." Elara shook her head. "No, the wedding itself. That's when the impact is maximum. Well, if we wait that long, they might move first. Then we make sure they can't." Elara looked at each of them. "We leak just enough information now to make Darian panic. Make him think his Kozlov connections are about to be exposed. He'll scramble to protect himself, maybe do something reckless. And we document everything. Then, at the wedding, we hit him with all of it at once." Patricia smiled grimly. "Controlled detonation." "Exactly." They spent the next 2 days executing the plan. An anonymous tip to a financial crimes reporter about suspicious transactions. A rumor planted through back channels about federal investigation into Kozlov money. Nothing that pointed directly to Darian, but close enough that he'd feel the heat. It worked better than expected. Darian called her at midnight, 3 days before the wedding. "We need to talk, now." "It's midnight, Darian. I don't care. I'm coming over." He showed up 20 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes were wild. "There are people investigating me," he said the moment she opened the door. "Federal people. Someone's been feeding them information." "What? Darian, what are you talking about?" "Financial crimes, money laundering. They're asking about my business dealings, my connections." He stopped, stared at her. "Did you say something to Victor?" "Say something about what?" "About my finances? About anything." "No, I don't know anything about your finances. You never tell me about business stuff, remember? You always said it would bore me." He searched her face, looking for the lie. She gave him nothing. "Someone's trying to destroy me," he said finally. "Right before our wedding, someone who knows too much." "Who would do that?" "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." He grabbed her shoulders. "Alara, listen to me. The next few days are going to be chaotic. There might be accusations, lies. I need you to trust me." "I do trust you. No matter what anyone says, no matter what evidence they claim to have. Remember that people can fabricate anything. They can make innocent things look criminal." Alara nodded. Let him think she believed him. After he left, she sent one message to Victor. "He's terrified. It's working." The reply came back immediately. 3 more days. Stay strong. 3 more days until she stood in front of everyone she knew and destroyed the man she'd almost married. 3 more days until everything changed. Alara poured herself a bourbon, the good stuff, her father's favorite, and stood at her window looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Darian was panicking. Livia was probably with him, strategizing, planning their next move. Let them plan. She had something better. She had the truth. And in 3 days, everyone would hear it. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be intimate. 50 people at the Ashford Hotel's private ballroom, soft lighting, and champagne. Everyone pretending the tension in the room wasn't thick enough to choke on. Alara wore white, deliberately. A slip dress that looked innocent but cost a fortune. She watched Darian work the room, shaking hands, laughing at jokes that weren't funny, playing the role of successful businessman about to marry well. He was good at it. She'd give him that. Livia stood near the bar, talking to their Aunt Margaret. Her sister caught Alara's eye across the room and smiled. It looked genuine. It probably wasn't. "You ready for this?" Victor's voice came from behind her. He wasn't supposed to be here, not technically on the guest list, but he'd shown up anyway. Darian had looked like he wanted to object, but couldn't figure out how without making a scene. "Ready as I'll ever be," Alara said quietly. "Your father's people are in position. James has the video system rigged. Patricia's outside with the files. When you give the signal, I know the plan." Victor studied her. "You can still back out. We have enough evidence to take him down without the theatrics. I don't want just to take him down. I want everyone to see exactly who he is." That's ego talking. Maybe, but it's also strategy. If I expose him privately, people will question it. Wonder if I'm lying, if I'm bitter. This way, there's no room for doubt. The dinner was a performance. Speeches from both families, toasts to the happy couple, her father standing up and talking about how proud he was. The subtext so heavy, Alara wondered if anyone else could feel it. Darian gave his own speech, talked about love and partnership and building a future together. He was convincing. If Alara hadn't heard that recording, hadn't seen the evidence, she might have believed him herself. When he finished, he came over and kissed her. The room applauded. She tasted lies on his mouth. Halfway through dinner, Darian's phone buzzed. Then again, he checked it and something in his expression changed. He excused himself, walked toward the exit with the phone pressed to his ear. Alara caught Victor's eye. He nodded slightly. Patricia was outside, probably intercepting whatever message had just rattled Darian. 5 minutes later, Darian returned. His smile was strained. "Everything okay?" Alara asked. "Fine, just work." He squeezed her hand. 2 more days and we can forget about work for a while. Focus on us." "Can't wait," she said. The lie came easier every time. After dinner, people mingled. Alara found herself cornered by her Aunt Margaret, who wanted to discuss flower arrangements and seemed oblivious to the fact that Alara couldn't care less. "The peonies are still my first choice," Margaret was saying, "but if the delivery is uncertain, we should have a backup. Roses are classic, of course, but everyone does roses." "Alara," Livia appeared at her elbow. "Can I borrow you for a second?" They stepped away from the crowd toward a quiet corner near the windows overlooking the city. "You look tense," Livia said. "It's been a long week. Cold feet?" Alara almost laughed. No, just tired. Livia touched her arm. The gesture looked sisterly, caring. I know I haven't been around as much as I should have been. Work's been crazy, but I want you to know I'm happy for you, really happy. Thanks, Liv. Darian's a good man. A little intense sometimes, but good. You two are going to be great together. The words were so sincere, so perfectly delivered. I appreciate that, Ilara said. It means a lot. They hugged. Ilara felt her sister's arms around her and thought about the recording, about Livia suggesting they speed along their father's death, about her laugh when she called Ilara too soft to see what was right in front of her. When they pulled apart, Livia's eyes were actually wet. Either she was a sociopath or she genuinely believed her own lies. Probably both. The evening wound down around 11. People started leaving, hugging Ilara and Darian, offering final congratulations. Her father left early, claiming exhaustion, but he caught her eye on the way out, a look that said everything without words. By midnight, it was just Ilara and Darian and a few stragglers. The hotel staff was already breaking down tables. Let's get out of here, Darian said. I'm exhausted. They drove back to his penthouse in silence. When they got there, he poured himself a drink, scotch, 3 fingers, and stood at the window. Something's wrong, he said finally. Ilara's pulse jumped, but she kept her voice steady. What do you mean? I can feel it. People are moving against me, trying to undermine everything I've built. Who? If I knew that, I'd handle it. He turned to face her. But I will handle it, whatever it takes. I know you will. He studied her. You believe in me, right? Even if things get complicated. Even if there are accusations. Of course. Because there are going to be accusations. Soon. People who want to destroy me, they'll say terrible things, make up stories. Ilara crossed the room, took his hand. Darian, whatever happens, we'll deal with it together. That's what marriage is. Some of the tension left his shoulders. I love you. I love you too, she said, and the lie tasted like ash. She stayed the night because leaving would have seemed suspicious. Lay next to him in the dark, listening to him breathe, thinking about how close she was to the end. 2 more days. Her phone buzzed quietly around 3 a.m. A text from Victor. Patricia got the conversation. He's planning something for the wedding. We think he might try to move your father's medication switch then. We'll be ready, she typed back. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's the big day, before the big day. She almost laughed. Sleep. Right. The next morning was chaos. Final dress fitting, last-minute vendor confirmations, 1,000 small decisions that felt absurd given what was really happening. Ilara went through the motions, smiled at the seamstress, approved the table settings, pretended to care about whether the champagne should be French or Italian. Her father called around noon. The medication arrived this morning, delivered personally by Darian's doctor. Did you take it? Of course not, but I called the doctor, told him I was having second thoughts, wanted to wait until after the wedding to make any changes. How'd he react? Surprised, tried to convince me otherwise, said the timing was actually critical. Marcus paused. He's in on it, Ilara. The whole thing. We'll add him to the list. This list is getting long. Good. I want everyone. No loose ends. That afternoon, Ilara met with James and Patricia at a coffee shop 3 blocks from her apartment. They looked exhausted. We have everything, James said, sliding a tablet across the table. Financial records, communications, witness statements. The pharmacist is willing to testify in exchange for immunity. Darian's doctor kept records. Apparently he documented everything, probably as insurance. It's all here. Ilara scrolled through the files. Months of work, condensed into irrefutable evidence. The presentation is ready, Patricia added. 17 minutes, including video of the original recording and supporting documents. We can trigger it from anywhere in the venue. Who's handling the technical side? I am, James said. I'll be in the AV booth. When you give the signal, everything broadcasts to the screens. Audio, video, documents, everyone sees it simultaneously. And the backup? 3 redundant systems. Even if Darian's people try to shut it down, it'll keep running. Ilara looked at both of them. Thank you for all of this. Patricia's expression softened slightly. You're tougher than you look, kid. Victor was right about you. What did he say? That you remind him of himself 20 years ago, before he got cynical. I'm pretty cynical right now. No, you're angry. There's a difference. Patricia leaned forward. Cynicism is when you stop caring. You still care. That's why you're doing this instead of just walking away. Maybe she was right. Alara didn't know anymore. That evening, she had dinner with Victor at Rossi's. Same table, same quiet corner. It felt like coming home, which was strange considering she'd only known him for 6 weeks. Nervous? He asked. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He poured wine. After tomorrow, your life changes. You understand that? I know. I mean fundamentally. You're burning every bridge with Darian's world. Some people in my world won't trust you. They'll think you're vindictive, unstable. Others will respect you. But either way, you can't go back to being Marcus Voss's sweet daughter. I don't want to go back. Victor nodded slowly. Your father and I talked. He wants you to take over his operations eventually. Train under me for a few years, learn how things really work, then assume control of the family business. What do you think about that? I think you'd be good at it. Better than good, actually. You have instincts that can't be taught. He paused. But it's a brutal life, Alara. It costs you things. Relationships, peace, sleep. You think I should walk away? I think you should choose consciously. Go into this with your eyes open. Alara thought about the past 6 weeks. About learning to read financial statements and spot shell corporations. About sitting in meetings with people who solved problems through violence and intimidation. About becoming someone who could lie to her fiancé's face without flinching. My eyes are open, she said. They talked strategy until past midnight. Final contingencies, backup plans, what to do if Darian tried something desperate. When Victor finally drove her home, he said, Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already won. You took control. That's what matters. Tell me that when it's over. I will. The day of the wedding dawned clear and bright. Perfect weather, like the universe had a sense of irony. Alara woke up in her childhood bedroom at her father's house. Traditional, her wedding planner had said. The bride shouldn't see the groom before the ceremony. Marcus was already awake when she came downstairs. He looked better than he had in weeks. Stronger, somehow. Like having a purpose had given him energy. How are you feeling? He asked. Like I'm about to destroy my life. You're about to save it. He handed her coffee. Your mother would have loved this. She always said the best revenge was making people watch their own downfall. You talk about her more now. Because you remind me of her more now. Marcus smiled. She would have been proud. Hell, I'm proud. The morning passed in a blur. Hair and makeup artists, the wedding planner running around with a clipboard, bridesmaids arriving in their matching dresses. Livia showed up around 10, looking beautiful, excited, and completely oblivious to what was coming. You look amazing, she said when she saw Alara in the dress. White silk, simple but elegant, the kind of dress that cost what most people made in a year. Thanks, Liv. I can't believe my little sister's getting married. Livia's eyes were wet again. I'm so happy for you. The performance was Oscar-worthy. Around 11, Alara's phone buzzed. Victor. Everything's in place. James is in position. Patricia has the backup files. You just have to get through the ceremony. And if Darian suspects something? Then we trigger early, but I don't think he does. His people have been quiet all morning. The ceremony was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the Cathedral of St. Catherine. Gothic architecture, stained glass, the kind of place that made everything feel sacred and serious. Alara arrived at 1:30. The guests were already filing in. She watched from a window in the bridal suite as everyone important in the city entered. Business leaders, politicians, old money families. Victor arrived with his usual entourage, looking dangerous in a tailored suit, and there was Darian at the front, talking to the officiant, looking nervous but happy, playing his role perfectly. 5 minutes, the wedding planner said. Alara's father appeared in the doorway. He was wearing his best suit, the one he saved for important occasions. He looked at her for a long moment. Last chance to back out, he said quietly. I'm not backing out. Good. Let's go ruin this bastard. The ceremony started exactly on time. The music swelled, the doors opened, and Alara walked down the aisle on her father's arm. Everyone stood, turned, watched. She saw Victor in the third row, his expression carefully neutral. Saw James near the back, probably signaling to Patricia outside. saw all the powerful people who'd come to witness what they thought would be a merger of families and fortunes. And she saw Darian at the altar, watching her approach with something that might have been love if he was capable of it. The officiant began. Traditional words about marriage and commitment and eternal partnership. Alara barely heard them. They got through the vows, through the ring exchange, through the part where the officiant asked if anyone objected. No one did, which was funny, considering what was about to happen. By the power vested in me, the officiant said, I now— Wait! Alara's voice cut through the cathedral, clear, strong. I have something to say. Silence. Confused silence. Darian's smile froze. Alara, what— I have something everyone needs to hear. She turned to face the assembled crowd, hundreds of faces staring back at her. About the man I almost married. Alara. Darian's voice was low, warning. Don't do this. Do what? Tell the truth? She looked at him. Isn't that what marriage is supposed to be built on? Truth? The screens around the cathedral, meant to show the ceremony to people in the back, suddenly flickered to life. James had triggered the presentation. What is this? Darian's face went pale. This, Alara said, is a recording from 6 weeks ago, the night I was supposed to bring you wedding cake samples. Her voice filled the cathedral, playing from the speakers, clear and damning. The merger required it. Her father won't sign over the shipping contracts unless his precious daughter is properly secured. Everyone heard it. Darian, Livia, every single person in that room. The recording played on. The discussion about her father's death, about speeding things along, about making it look natural. Livia stood up from her seat in the front row. Her face was white. Turn it off. Turn it off right now. Why? Alara looked at her sister. Don't you want everyone to hear your part? Where you suggest murder? Where you laugh about how stupid I am? The recording reached that section. Livia's voice, bright and cruel. She's too trusting, too soft. She'll cry at the funeral, lean on you, and never suspect a thing. The cathedral erupted. Gasps, shouts, people standing up. Darian lunged for Alara. Victor was faster, stepping between them, his people materializing from the crowd like they'd been waiting for this. Don't, Victor said quietly. The screens changed, now showing financial documents, shell corporations, money laundering schemes, communications with the Kozlov family. This is insane, Darian shouted. It's fabricated, all of it. Is it? Alara's voice was steady. Should we call the federal prosecutors who've been building a case, or maybe we should ask your doctor about the medications he prescribed to my father, the ones that would have killed him? More gasps. Her father stood up from his seat, looking at Darian with an expression that could melt steel. You tried to kill me, Marcus said, for shipping contracts. No, this is— someone set me up. Alara, you have to believe— I don't have to believe anything. Alara looked at him, really looked at him. I know exactly who you are. I've known for 6 weeks. The presentation continued. 17 minutes of evidence, witnesses, testimony. By the end, there was no room for doubt. Darian stood at the altar, his perfect image crumbling in real time. Some people in the crowd were already leaving, distancing themselves. Others were on their phones, probably calling lawyers. Victor's people had Darian surrounded, not threatening, just present. The authorities are already on their way, Patricia said from somewhere near the entrance. Federal agents, they have the same evidence. They're bringing charges. Darian looked at Alara. His expression cycled through anger, desperation, hatred. You ruined everything, he said. No, I saved everything. There's a difference. Livia tried to run, made it halfway down the aisle before 2 of Victor's people stopped her. She was crying, makeup running, the perfect sister act finally broken. I didn't know, she was saying. I didn't know he was serious. It was just talk. You suggested methods, Alara said. You researched medications. You knew exactly what you were doing. The cathedral had descended into chaos. People arguing, guards trying to maintain order, the wedding planner looking like she might faint. Marcus approached the altar, looked at Darian with cold assessment. You came after my family, he said quietly. My daughter. You thought we were weak. Easy marks. Marcus, we can work this out. There's nothing to work out. You're done. Marcus turned to Alara. You handled this well. I had good teachers. Federal agents arrived 10 minutes later. They took Darian away in handcuffs, reading him his rights while photographers caught every moment. Livia went separately, still crying, still claiming innocence. The wedding guests dispersed quickly after that. Some offered Alara awkward condolences. Others just left. Victor stayed, making sure everything was documented, making sure no one tried anything stupid. By 4 p.m., the cathedral was empty, except for Alara, her father, and Victor.
Well, Marcus said finally, that was dramatic. Alara laughed. It came out slightly hysterical. I wanted everyone to see. They saw. Victor looked at her. You all right? I don't know. Ask me tomorrow. Fair enough. They left through a side exit, avoiding the media circus forming out front. Marcus went home. Victor offered to drive Alara, but she wanted to walk. She needed air, space, time to process what had just happened.
The dress was uncomfortable for walking, but she didn't care. She made it 3 blocks before Victor's car pulled up beside her. Get in, he said through the open window. I'm fine. You're walking around in a wedding dress looking like you might fall apart. Get in the car, Alara. She got in. They drove in silence for a while. Finally, Victor said, You know this isn't over, right? Darian will try to fight the charges. His lawyers will attack your credibility. The media will have a field day. I know. And the Kozlovs, they won't be happy about losing their money channel. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to prepare you. This is the beginning of the war, not the end. Alara looked out the window. The city was the same as it had always been. Buildings and lights and people who had no idea what had just happened. Then I guess we keep fighting, she said. Victor almost smiled. Yeah, I guess we do. He drove her to his building, to a secure apartment on the top floor. You're staying here tonight, he said. My people are outside. No one gets in without clearance. You think Darian's people will retaliate? I think desperate men do desperate things. And right now, Darian's very desperate. The apartment was nice. Modern, clean, nothing personal. Alara sat on the couch, still in her wedding dress, and finally let herself feel it. The weight of what she'd done. The bridge she'd burned. The life she'd destroyed. She started crying. Not delicate tears. Full-on sobbing that she couldn't control. Victor appeared with a glass of bourbon. Sat next to her. Didn't try to comfort her. Didn't say it was okay. Just sat there while she fell apart. When she finally stopped, he handed her the drink. Better? He asked. No, but functional. That's all you need to be right now. Alara sipped the bourbon. It burned. Everything burned. What happens next? She asked. Next, we make sure Darian stays down. The federal case is solid, but we need to keep pressure on. Make sure none of his allies try to help him. And Livia? She'll probably flip, testify against Darian to save herself. She's my sister. She tried to help kill your father. Sometimes family isn't worth saving. He was right. Alara knew he was right. They sat there as the sun set, turning the city golden. Tomorrow would bring new problems. Media scrutiny, legal battles, enemies who'd want revenge. But tonight, Alara had won. And that was enough. Morning came too fast. Alara woke up on Victor's couch, still in her wedding dress, with a blanket someone had draped over her during the night. Her head pounded. Her eyes felt swollen. Victor was already awake, sitting at the dining table with coffee and 3 newspapers spread out in front of him. You made the front page, he said without looking up. All 3 papers, plus every news site in the country. Alara sat up slowly. Everything hurt. How bad? Depends on your perspective. He slid one of the papers across. Times is calling it the scandal of the decade. Post went with wedding crasher. Journal actually did decent journalism, focused on the federal charges. The photo on the front page showed her at the altar, still in her dress, while Darian was being led away in handcuffs. Her expression was unreadable. She looked like a stranger. There's video too, Victor added. Someone recorded the whole thing. It's everywhere. Of course it is. Your phone's been ringing non-stop. I turned it off around 3 a.m. Alara dragged herself to the bathroom, looked at herself in the mirror. Mascara streaked down her face, hair a disaster, the wedding dress crumpled and ruined. She looked like she'd been through a war. Maybe she had. She washed her face, tried to fix her hair, gave up. When she came back out, Victor had coffee waiting. Your father called, wants to know if you're all right. Am I all right? You tell me. Alara thought about it. Yesterday, she'd exposed her fiancé as a would-be murderer in front of everyone she knew. She'd destroyed her sister's life. She'd made herself the center of the biggest scandal the city had seen in years. I'm alive, she said finally. That counts for something. It counts for everything. Victor checked his watch. Federal prosecutors want to meet with you this afternoon. Go over your testimony, prepare for the trial. Already? They're moving fast. Probably worried Darian's people will try to destroy evidence or intimidate witnesses. He paused. There's something else. Livia's attorney reached out. She wants to talk to you. Absolutely not. That's what I told them, but she's claiming she has information, things that weren't in the evidence we compiled. Like what? They wouldn't say, but my guess? She's trying to save herself. Probably offering to testify against Darian in exchange for a plea deal. Alara sipped her coffee. It was strong, bitter, perfect. Let her testify. I don't need to hear it from her first. Victor nodded. Patricia's downstairs. She brought clothes, files, everything you need for the prosecutor meeting, and security. Security? The Kozlovs know their money channel just got arrested. They're not going to be happy about it. Right. The Kozlovs. Alara had been so focused on Darian and Livia that she'd almost forgotten about the organized crime family that probably wanted her dead. How worried should I be? She asked. Honestly? Very. But we're handling it. I've got people watching you, your father, anyone they might use as leverage. This is insane. This is the world you stepped into. Victor's expression was serious. You can still back out. Give testimony from protective custody. Disappear for a few months until the trial's over. And then what? Spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder? Possibly. No. Alara set down her coffee. I'm not hiding. I did this publicly. I'm seeing it through publicly. Something like approval crossed Victor's face. Then we do this the hard way. Patricia arrived 20 minutes later with a garment bag and a thick accordion file. She looked Alara up and down. You look like hell, she said. Thanks. That's helpful. I brought clothes, showers through there. We need to leave in 40 minutes. The shower helped. The clothes, a simple black suit, conservative but expensive, helped more. By the time Alara was dressed and had attempted makeup, she looked almost human. Patricia briefed her in the car. The lead prosecutor is Sarah Chen. She's good, aggressive, doesn't take chances. She'll ask you to walk through everything chronologically. The recording, the investigation, yesterday's events. Just tell the truth. Don't embellish, don't speculate. What about Livia? What about her? Is she cooperating? Her attorney's negotiating, but nothing's finalized yet. Patricia glanced at her. You need to prepare yourself for the possibility that she walks with minimal charges. She tried to help murder our father. She talked about it. There's a difference, legally. Good defense attorney could argue she was just going along with Darian, never intended to actually go through with it. That's bullshit. That's the law. Welcome to the system. The federal building was crawling with media, cameras, reporters, vans with satellite dishes. They started shouting questions the moment Alara's car pulled up. Miss Voss, how long did you know? Was the wedding planned as a trap? Are you working with federal authorities? Patricia and Victor's security team surrounded her, creating a path through the chaos. Someone shoved a microphone in her face. Victor knocked it away. Inside was quieter. Sterile hallways, government efficiency. Sarah Chen met them in a conference room on the 7th floor. She was younger than Alara expected, maybe 40, Asian, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Miss Voss, thank you for coming. Chen shook her hand. I know yesterday was traumatic, but we need to move quickly. They spent 4 hours going through everything, the recording, the investigation, every piece of evidence. Chen's questions were precise, thorough. She wanted dates, times, exact wording. When you first heard the recording, what did you do? I backed it up, 3 different locations. Smart. And then? I researched Darian, found out about his real identity, his connection to the Kozlovs. What made you contact Victor da Costa instead of coming to authorities? Alara hesitated. This was the tricky part. I didn't think I had enough evidence yet. Just a recording that could have been dismissed as talk. I needed more, and Victor helped you get more. Yes. In exchange for what? Protection. and information about Darian's operations that might affect Victor's business interests. Chen made notes. You understand that some people will characterize this as a personal vendetta, that you were a scorned fiancé out for revenge. I was a woman whose fiancé was planning to murder her father and steal her inheritance. Revenge seems like a reasonable response. Chen almost smiled. Fair point, but the defense will try to discredit you, paint you as vindictive, unstable, possibly claim you fabricated evidence. The recording is authentic, so are the financial documents, the witness statements, everything else. I know, but juries are unpredictable. Chen closed her folder. Here's where we stand. Darian Hale is being charged with conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, fraud, and RICO violations. The evidence is strong, but his attorneys are already floating the idea of a plea deal. No deals, Ilara said immediately. That's not your decision. It's the Department of Justice's. And if we can get him to flip on the Kozlovs to provide evidence against higher-level targets, he tried to kill my father. I understand, but my job is to build cases against criminal organizations. Sometimes that means making deals with smaller fish to catch bigger ones. Ilara looked at Victor. He'd been quiet through the whole meeting, just listening. The Kozlovs are the real target, he said. Darian's just a conduit. If Chen can use him to bring down the whole organization, that protects you better than putting him in prison does. I want both. The organization gone and Darian in prison. We'll do our best, Chen said. But I need you to be prepared for the possibility that Darian serves reduced time in exchange for cooperation. The meeting ended around 4 p.m. Ilara's head was spinning with legal terminology and strategic considerations. In the car, Victor said, "You did well." Doesn't feel like it. Chen's tough. If she thinks the case is solid, it probably is. Unless Darian makes a deal. Even if he does, he's still destroyed. His business, his reputation, his connections, all gone. Prison time is just one form of punishment. Maybe. But Ilara wanted him to suffer the way she'd suffered, the way her father would have suffered if they'd succeeded. They drove through the city, past buildings where she used to have lunch with Livia, past the restaurant where Darian had proposed, past all the landmarks of her old life. "I need to see my father," she said. "I'll take you." Marcus was home, sitting in his study with a bourbon and a cigar. He looked tired but satisfied. "How'd it go with the prosecutors?" he asked. "Good. They think the case is strong." "It is strong. You made it strong." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit. Tell me what's really bothering you." Ilara sat. Chen said Darian might make a deal. Reduce sentence in exchange for testifying against the Kozlovs. Probably will. That's how these things work. It's not fair. Fair has nothing to do with it. We destroyed him, Ilara. His business is gone, his connections are severed. Every ally he had is running in the opposite direction. Whether he spends 5 years in prison or 20, he'll never recover from this. What about Livia? Marcus's expression hardened. What about her? Her attorney wants to talk to me. Apparently she has information. You're not talking to her. I know, but Victor thinks she might flip, testify against Darian to save herself. Let her. I don't care what happens to Livia. She's not my daughter anymore. The words were cold, final. Dad, she helped plan my murder, Ilara. She laughed about it. There's no coming back from that. Marcus took a long drink. You want my advice? Focus on the things you can control. The trial, your safety, the future. Let the prosecutors and attorneys handle Livia. He was right. Ilara knew he was right. But Livia was still her sister, had been her best friend for 26 years before everything fell apart. That night, Victor took her to dinner at a small Italian place in the warehouse district. Quiet, private, no media. You need to eat, he said when she just pushed pasta around her plate. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You haven't had a real meal in 2 days. She forced down a few bites. It tasted like cardboard. Talk to me, Victor said. What's going on in your head? I'm wondering if I made a mistake. By exposing Darian? By doing it the way I did. So publicly. So dramatically. Ilara set down her fork. Maybe I should have just gone to the police. Let them handle it quietly. And if Darian had convinced them it was fake, if his attorneys had gotten the evidence suppressed, if he'd walked free and still married you, at least I wouldn't be the center of a media circus. Victor leaned back. You're having regrets. That's normal. Is it? You just blew up your entire life. Of course you're questioning it. He paused. But let me ask you something. If you could go back to 6 weeks ago, knowing everything you know now, would you do it differently? Alara thought about it. About the girl who'd walked into that penthouse with cake samples. About the future she'd imagined, marriage to Darian, partnership in building an empire, maybe kids someday. All of it had been a lie. No, she said finally. I'd do it exactly the same. Then stop second-guessing yourself. You made the hard choice. Now you live with it. They finished dinner in comfortable silence. When Victor dropped her back at his building, she was staying there until better security could be arranged at her own apartment. He said, "Get some sleep. Tomorrow starts the real work." "What real work?" "Rebuilding. You destroyed Darian, but you also destroyed the version of yourself that existed with him. Now you figure out who you actually are." Alara went upstairs, changed into borrowed clothes, and stood at the window looking out at the city. Who was she now? Not Marcus Voss's sweet daughter, not Darian Hale's fiancée, not the girl who apologized for wrong coffee orders. She was someone harder, someone who'd chosen truth over comfort, someone willing to burn her own life down to protect what mattered. Maybe that was enough to build on. Her phone rang. She'd turned it back on earlier against Patricia's advice. The number was blocked. "Hello?" "Alara?" Livia's voice raw from crying. "Please don't hang up." Every instinct said to end the call, but something made her stay on the line. "What do you want?" "To explain, to apologize, to—" "There's nothing to explain. I heard the recording. I saw the evidence. You helped plan our father's murder." "I didn't mean it. It was just talk. I would never have actually—" "You researched medications, Livia. You suggested methods. That's not just talk." Silence. Then, "I was in love with him. With Darian. I wasn't thinking clearly." "You were thinking clearly enough to betray your entire family. He told me we'd be together. That once he had the shipping contracts, once everything was settled, he'd leave you and we'd—" Livia's voice broke. "I was stupid. I know that now." "You were cruel. There's a difference." "I'm so sorry. Alara, please. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm still your sister. I'm still—" "No. You stopped being my sister the moment you laughed about how stupid and trusting I was. How soft." Alara's voice was steady. "I hope your attorney gets you a good deal. I hope you don't go to prison. But we're done. Permanently." "Alara?" She ended the call. Then she blocked the number, poured herself a drink, and let herself cry for the last time over a sister who'd never really existed in the first place. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, depositions, and media management. Darian's attorneys tried every tactic, claiming the recording was fake, that Alara had manipulated events, that she was working with Victor to eliminate a business competitor. None of it stuck. The evidence was too solid. Livia did flip exactly as Victor predicted. She testified before a grand jury, providing details about Darian's operations that even Alara hadn't known. In exchange, she got a plea deal. 3 years probation, no jail time. Marcus refused to see her, cut her out of his will, out of the family business, out of everything. Alara felt nothing about it, just a distant kind of relief that it was over. The Kozlov situation was more complicated. Federal agents raided 3 properties, arrested half a dozen associates, seized millions in assets. But the family's leadership remained untouched, operating from somewhere in Eastern Europe. "They're weakened," Victor explained during one of their regular dinners. Darian was their main channel into American markets. Without him, they're scrambling, but they're not gone. Should I be worried? Always. But we're watching. If they make a move against you, we'll see it coming. Alara had started working with her father's company, learning the shipping business from the inside. It was complicated, demanding, nothing like the charity work she'd done before. She loved it. She also started working more closely with Victor. He'd offered her a position, officially as a consultant, really as an apprentice learning how power actually functioned in the city. "You have good instincts," he'd said, "but instincts only get you so far. You need experience, knowledge, the kind of education that doesn't come from business schools." So she learned how to read contracts for hidden clauses, how to structure deals that benefited everyone just enough to prevent betrayal, how to identify threats before they materialized, how to survive in a world where trust was currency and betrayal was business as usual. 3 months after the wedding that never was, Darian's trial began. Alara attended every day. sat in the gallery, and watched as the prosecution laid out the evidence. The recording, the financial documents, witness testimony from Patricia, James, and dozens of others. Darian's defense was weak. They argued entrapment, claimed Alara had orchestrated everything, suggested she was mentally unstable. The jury didn't buy it. The verdict came back after 4 days of deliberation, guilty on all counts. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The prosecution recommended 20 years. Darian's attorneys argued for 10, citing his cooperation against the Kozlovs. The judge gave him 15 with possibility of parole after 10. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Alara left the courthouse with her father and Victor. Media was waiting, as always. "Miss Voss, how do you feel about the verdict?" She stopped, looked directly at the cameras. "Justice isn't always satisfying, but it's necessary. Darian Hale tried to destroy my family. Instead, he destroyed himself. That's what happens when you underestimate people, when you think kindness is weakness and trust is stupidity." She paused. "I hope this sends a message to everyone who thinks they can manipulate their way to power. Eventually, the truth wins." They drove away before reporters could ask follow-up questions. At her father's house, Marcus poured 3 bourbons. "To survival," he said, raising his glass. "To truth," Alara added. Victor just smiled and drank. Later, when Marcus had gone to bed, Alara and Victor sat on the back patio watching the city lights. "What now?" she asked. "What do you mean?" "Darian's in prison. Livia's in exile. The Kozlovs are weakened. The trial's over. What's next?" Victor considered the question. "You rebuild. Figure out what you want your life to look like now that you're not defined by what happened to you." "What if I don't know what I want?" "Then you experiment. Try things. Make mistakes." He looked at her. "You're 26 years old, Alara. You just survived something that would have destroyed most people. You have time to figure out the rest." "Do I?" "The Kozlovs are still out there. Darian still has supporters. There are people who think I'm a vindictive liar. There will always be threats, always be enemies. That's the price of standing up for yourself." Victor set down his glass. "But you're not alone in this. You have your father. You have me. You have resources and skills most people never develop." "Is that supposed to be comforting?" "It's supposed to be honest." They sat in silence for a while. Then Alara said, "Thank you. For everything. I wouldn't have survived this without you." "Yes, you would have. Maybe not the same way, but you'd have survived. You're tougher than you think." "Everyone keeps saying that." "Because it's true." Victor stood. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we start planning the next phase." "What next phase?" "Your father wants you to take over the international operations, shipping routes through Asia and Europe. It's complicated, high-stakes work." "I don't know anything about international shipping." "You'll learn. Same way you learned everything else. By doing it." He paused at the door. "And Alara? Stop waiting for permission to be powerful. You already are." After he left, Alara stayed outside for another hour, thinking about the past 3 months, about everything she'd lost and everything she'd gained. She'd lost her fiancé, her sister, her old life. She'd lost the ability to trust easily, lost the innocence that made her think love was enough to protect you. But she'd gained something too: strength, knowledge, the ability to look at herself in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. That was worth something. Maybe worth everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on the verdict. You won this round, but the game's not over." A friend of Darian's. Alara stared at the message, felt the familiar spike of fear. Then she deleted it and blocked the number. Let them come. She'd survived Darian. She'd survived her sister's betrayal. She'd survived a very public destruction of her entire life. Whatever came next, she'd survive that too. And maybe, eventually, she'd do more than survive. Maybe she'd thrive. The threatening text turned out to be the first of many. Over the next 2 weeks, Alara received 6 more messages from different numbers. Nothing actionable, nothing the police could trace, just reminders that someone out there wanted her to be afraid. She showed them to Victor during one of their morning meetings at his office. "Amateur hour," he said, scrolling through them. "If the Kozlovs were serious about retaliation, you'd already be dead. This is just noise." Comforting. It's true. Real threats don't announce themselves. He handed back her phone. But we're still tightening security. Better safe than paranoid. Alara had moved into a new apartment. High floor, doorman building, security system that could probably withstand a small army. Patricia had supervised the whole setup, checking sightlines and access points like she was preparing for war. Maybe she was. Work helped. Alara threw herself into learning her father's business, spending 12-hour days studying shipping routes and port regulations and international trade agreements. It was complicated enough to keep her mind occupied. Marcus seemed pleased. "You're picking this up faster than I did," he said one afternoon, reviewing a contract she'd negotiated with a supplier in Singapore. "Your mother would have been proud." "You keep saying that." "Because it keeps being true." He signed the contract. "I'm making you VP of International Operations, effective immediately." "Dad, I've only been doing this for 3 months." "And you've already renegotiated 4 major contracts, identified 3 cost-saving opportunities, and prevented what would have been a disastrous deal with a front company for the triads." Marcus looked at her. "You're ready. More importantly, the board trusts you. After everything that happened with Darian, they see you as someone who can spot threats." "Great. I'm the family's human lie detector." "You could do worse." He stood, gathered his papers. "There's a shipping conference in Hong Kong next month. Major players from across Asia. I want you to go. Represent the family." "Alone?" "Victor's going too. Different business, but overlapping interests. He'll watch your back." Of course Victor would be there. He was always there lately, orbiting her life like a planet with its own gravity. Alara hadn't figured out how she felt about that yet. The Hong Kong trip was 6 weeks away. In the meantime, she had other problems to handle. One of them walked into her office on a Tuesday afternoon without knocking. Livia looked different. Thinner, older somehow. Her hair was shorter, no makeup, clothes that looked expensive but worn. "Security let you up?" Alara asked, not standing. "I told them I was your sister. Guess they didn't get the memo that we're not family anymore." Livia closed the door behind her. "Can we talk? Just 5 minutes." "No." "Please, I know you hate me. I know I destroyed everything, but I need you to hear something." Alara considered calling security, considered throwing her out personally. Instead, she said, "You have 3 minutes." Livia sat down across from her. Up close, she looked worse, dark circles under her eyes, hands that wouldn't stop moving. "I'm testifying again next week," she said. "Federal grand jury. They're building a case against the Kozlov leadership." "I know, Patricia told me." "They want details I gave Darian, information about Dad's business, about shipping routes, about vulnerabilities in the security system." Livia's voice cracked. "I gave him everything, Alara. Every secret, every weakness. I thought I was helping build our future. Really, I was just handing him weapons." "Is there a point to this?" "The point is the Kozlovs know I'm testifying, and they know I have information that could destroy their entire American operation." She looked up. "My attorney thinks they might try to kill me before I can testify." "Then get protection. Witness security. That's what the government does." "I tried. They said the threat isn't credible enough yet. Not until there's actual evidence of a plot." Livia's hands twisted together. "I'm scared, Alara. I know I don't deserve your help. I know I deserve whatever happens to me, but I'm still scared." Alara studied her sister, the girl who'd laughed about their father's death, who'd helped plan to steal everything from their family. She felt nothing, no sympathy, no anger, just exhausted indifference. "What do you want from me?" "I don't know. Maybe just to say I'm sorry. To tell you that I wake up every day wishing I could go back and change everything." Livia wiped her eyes. "You were right. I stopped being your sister the moment I chose him over you. Over Dad. Over everything that mattered." "Yes, you did. Can you ever forgive me?" Alara thought about it, really thought about it. "No," she said finally. "I can't. Because forgiveness would mean trusting you again someday, and I'll never trust you again, Livia. You made sure of that." Livia nodded like she'd expected this. "Then I guess this is goodbye." "It was goodbye 3 months ago. This is just you finally accepting it." Her sister stood, walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. "For what it's worth, you were always stronger than me. I was just too jealous to see it." She looked back. "I hope you build something amazing. I hope you're happy. I hope—" Her voice broke. "I hope someday you can think about me without hating me." "I don't hate you, Livia. I don't feel anything about you at all, and that's worse. After she left, Elara sat at her desk for a long time, staring at nothing. Patricia appeared in the doorway. I saw her leave. You okay? Define okay. Fair point. Patricia came in, closed the door. For the record, she's not wrong about the Kozlov threat. We've been monitoring chatter. There's definitely interest in making sure she doesn't testify. That's not my problem. Isn't it? If they kill her, the case gets weaker. The Kozlovs stay in business, and you stay looking over your shoulder forever. Elara looked up. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that sometimes protecting someone you hate is the smart strategic move. Patricia sat down. Victor's already mobilizing resources. We can keep her safe until the testimony. After that, she's on her own. Victor's doing this? He's doing it for you because if something happens to Livia before she testifies, you'll blame yourself. And he doesn't want you carrying that weight. Elara hated that Victor knew her well enough to predict that. Hated that he was right. Fine, she said, but I don't want to see her. Don't want updates. Just make sure she survives long enough to put the Kozlovs away. Done. The next week was tense. Elara went through the motions, meetings, contract reviews, learning the business. But her mind kept drifting to Livia, alone somewhere, waiting to testify against people who wanted her dead. She tried not to care. Failed. On Thursday night, Victor called. There was an incident. Elara's stomach dropped. What kind of incident? Someone tried to get to Livia at her apartment. Patricia's people intercepted them. 2 men, Russian accent, carrying enough hardware to start a small war. Is she? She's fine. Shaken, but fine. We moved her to a safe location. Federal marshals are taking over from here. Elara exhaled. Did they question the men? Briefly, before their lawyers showed up. But we got enough. Confirmed Kozlov connection. Confirmed they were there to prevent testimony. Victor paused. This is good for the case. Makes the threat real. Gives prosecutors leverage. And Livia? Testifies Monday. After that, she goes into witness protection if she's smart. Monday came. Elara didn't attend the testimony, but she watched the news coverage. Saw Livia walking into the courthouse surrounded by federal agents, looking small and scared. Part of her, a very small part, felt sorry for her sister. The rest just felt tired. The testimony lasted 6 hours. Livia gave them everything: names, dates, financial transactions, operational details. Enough to indict 12 people, including 2 members of the Kozlov family leadership. By Tuesday morning, warrants were being executed across 3 states. By Wednesday, the Kozlov's American operations were effectively destroyed. Victor took Elara to dinner that night to celebrate. Same Italian place, same quiet corner. You did it, he said, raising his glass. You took down Darian, weakened the Kozlovs, and secured your family's business, all in 4 months. We did it. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You would have found a way. You're resourceful. He smiled, but I'm glad I got to help. They talked business for a while. The Hong Kong trip, upcoming negotiations, opportunities in emerging markets. But eventually the conversation drifted. Can I ask you something personal? Elara said. You can ask. I might not answer. Why did you help me? Really? It wasn't just about Darian interfering with your business. Victor was quiet for a moment. You want the truth? Always. Because you reminded me of myself. 25 years ago, I was engaged to someone who seemed perfect, beautiful, charming, connected to the right families. Turned out she was working for a rival organization, feeding them information about my operations. What did you do? I married her anyway. Spent 5 years in a relationship I knew was a lie because I thought I could turn it into something real. He looked at his glass. Eventually, she left me for someone with more money, took half my assets in the divorce. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me the most important lesson of my life. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it usually is. When you came to me with that recording, I saw someone who'd figured that out early, who wasn't going to waste years on a beautiful lie. So you were saving me from becoming you? I was giving you the tools to save yourself. There's a difference. Elara sipped her wine. What happened to your ex-wife? Last I heard, she's married to a tech CEO in Silicon Valley, living the life she always wanted. Victor shrugged. Good for her. I have no hard feelings anymore. Really? Really. Holding grudges takes energy. I'd rather spend that energy building something new.
They finished dinner and walked outside. The city was alive. Lights, noise, endless movement. Alara had lived here her whole life, but felt like she was seeing it for the first time. "Can I ask you something else?" she said. "You're full of questions tonight." "What happens now, between us?" Victor stopped walking. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know. A few months ago, you were my mentor, someone teaching me how to survive. But lately it feels like more than that. Does that bother you?" "I don't know. Maybe I'm just confusing gratitude with something else." "Or maybe," Victor said carefully, "you're recognizing that we work well together, that we understand each other in ways most people don't." "Is that what this is? Partnership?" "It could be, if you want it to be." He looked at her directly. "I'm not Darian, Alara. I'm not going to manipulate you or use you or pretend to be something I'm not. What you see is what you get. And what I see is someone who operates in gray areas, who makes deals with dangerous people, who solves problems through intimidation and force. Yes, all of that. I'm not going to apologize for who I am or what I do. I'm not asking you to." Alara took a breath. "I'm just trying to figure out if I can be part of that world without losing myself completely." "You won't lose yourself. You'll change, evolve. But that's different than losing who you are." Victor stepped closer. "Besides, you're already part of this world. Have been since the moment you chose to fight instead of run." He was right. The girl who'd brought cake samples to her fiancé's apartment was gone. In her place was someone harder, sharper, someone who could negotiate with shipping magnates and spot criminal conspiracies and make decisions that affected thousands of people. Someone who could stand next to Victor DaCosta and feel like an equal. "Okay," she said finally. "Okay, what?" "Okay, let's see where this goes. Partnership, alliance, whatever you want to call it. But we do it honestly. No games, no manipulation. If this is going to work, it has to be real." Victor smiled. Actually smiled. Not the careful expression he usually wore. "Deal." They walked back to his car. The city kept moving around them, indifferent to their small revolution. The Hong Kong conference was everything Marcus had promised. High-stakes negotiations, power players from across Asia, opportunities worth millions. Alara held her own. Closed 2 major deals, established relationships with shipping companies in Taiwan and South Korea, proved she belonged in rooms where decisions shaped global trade. Victor was there too, working his own deals. But they made time for each other, dinners after long days, late-night conversations about strategy and risk, moments that felt like partnership and something more. One night, standing on the balcony of her hotel room looking out at the Hong Kong skyline, Victor said, "You've changed since I met you. Better or worse?" "Different. More confident, less apologetic." "I'm not sure that's entirely good." "Why not?" "Because sometimes I miss the person I was, the one who believed people were basically good, who thought love was enough." "That person was naive," Victor said. "She would have been destroyed eventually." "Maybe, but she was also happier." Happiness is overrated. Power, security, respect, those last. Happiness is just a moment. Alara turned to look at him. "Is that really what you believe?" Victor considered the question. "I used to, now I'm not so sure." "What changed?" "You did. Watching you fight for what matters, watching you refuse to let betrayal break you, it reminded me that some things are worth protecting, even if they make you vulnerable." "Are you saying I make you vulnerable?" "Terrifyingly so." He smiled. "But I'm learning to live with it." They stood there in silence, the city spreading out below them like a promise. "When we get back," Alara said, "I want to start something new, a foundation maybe, using part of the family business profits to help people who've been betrayed or exploited, give them resources to fight back." "That's ambitious." "I know, but I keep thinking about all the people who don't have what I had, money, connections, someone like you willing to help. What happens to them?" "They usually lose." "Then let's change that, at least for some of them." Victor studied her. "You're serious about this?" "Completely. I survived because I had advantages. I want to give those advantages to people who don't. It'll be complicated, expensive. You'll make enemies." "I already have enemies. Might as well make them for something worthwhile." Victor laughed, actually laughed, which she'd never heard before. "Okay, when we get back, we'll start planning. Foundation, resources, legal support, the whole thing."
Just like that? Just like that. You want to change the world? I'll help you change the world. That's what partners do. They flew back to the city 3 days later. The foundation became Alara's new project, working with attorneys to establish the structure, with accountants to create sustainable funding, with counselors to develop support programs. Her father contributed substantial seed money. Victor added resources and connections. Within 6 months, they had offices, staff, and their first clients. People who'd been defrauded, exploited, betrayed by people they trusted. People like Alara had been. She met with each one personally, listened to their stories, helped them develop strategies to fight back. Not all of them won, but enough did that it started to matter. The media noticed. After months of scandal coverage, they finally had a different story to tell. The woman who'd exposed her fiancé at the altar was now helping others escape similar situations. Alara gave exactly one interview, made it clear she wasn't interested in being a spokesperson or a symbol. She just wanted to do the work. That was enough. A year after the wedding that never was, Alara stood in the foundation's new office space, watching volunteers train on intake procedures. Her father was there, looking healthier than he had in years. Patricia and James had joined the foundation's security team. Even Victor had shown up, claiming he wanted to see what his investment was buying. "You built something good here," Marcus said. "Your mother would have loved this." "You would have told me I was being impractical, that business and charity don't mix." "I would have been wrong. This is smart business and good charity. Turns out you can do both." Victor appeared at her elbow. "There's someone here to see you." Alara followed him to a small conference room. A woman was waiting, mid-30s, nervous, holding a folder. "Miss Voss? My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a prosecutor. We met a year ago." "I remember. You handled Darian's case." "Yes." "And now I'm handling something else. Something I thought you should know about." Chen opened the folder. "Darian Hale was killed 3 days ago. Prison fight, officially. But we have evidence it was a hit." Alara felt nothing. No satisfaction, no grief, just empty acknowledgement. "The Kozlovs?" she asked. "We think so. Darian had been talking about cooperating further, giving more testimony. They couldn't risk it. So they handled it. They tried, but the information Darian provided before his death was enough to bring federal RICO charges against the remaining leadership. We executed warrants this morning, arrested 6 people, including the head of the family." Victor stepped forward. "You're telling us the Kozlovs are done? The American branch is destroyed. European operations are being targeted by Interpol. It'll take years, but we're dismantling the whole organization." Chen looked at Alara. "I wanted you to know. This started with your evidence, your testimony. You helped bring down a criminal enterprise that's existed for 40 years. After Chen left, Alara sat down, tried to process the fact that Darian was dead. "You okay?" Victor asked. "I don't know. I spent a year being angry at him. Now he's just gone." "How do you feel?" "Empty. Like I should feel something, relief or closure or satisfaction, but there's nothing." "That's normal. He was already dead to you. This is just making it official. Maybe." Alara didn't know anymore. That night she and Victor had dinner at her apartment. She cooked, something she hadn't done in months, and they ate on the balcony watching the sunset. "I've been thinking," Victor said, "about what comes next. For the foundation? For us." He set down his fork. "We've been doing this dance for a year. Partnership, friendship, whatever we're calling it. But I think we both know it's more than that." Alara's heart did something complicated. "Victor, let me finish. I know you've been hurt. I know trust is difficult. But I also know that we work. We understand each other. We want the same things." He looked at her directly. "I'm not proposing marriage or asking you to commit to something you're not ready for. I'm just saying, let's stop pretending this is purely professional." "What are you suggesting?" "That we acknowledge what this is. That we build something together that isn't just business. Something real." Alara thought about the past year, about working alongside Victor, learning from him, trusting him in ways she'd never trusted Darian, about the foundation they'd built together, the future they were shaping, about the fact that somewhere along the way, partnership had become something deeper. "Okay," she said finally. "Okay? Okay, let's build something real. But we do it our way. No traditional expectations, no predetermined path. We figure it out as we go." Victor smiled. I can work with that. They finished dinner as the city lights came on below them. Talked about the foundation's expansion plans, about her father's gradual retirement, about opportunities in emerging markets. Talked about everything and nothing, the way people do when they're comfortable enough to just exist together. Later, standing at the window, Alara thought about the girl who'd walked into a penthouse with cake samples, who'd heard her world collapse and chosen to fight instead of break. That girl was gone. In her place was someone who'd survived betrayal, exposed corruption, built something meaningful from ruins. Someone who'd learned that trust wasn't about never being hurt. It was about choosing who was worth the risk. "What are you thinking?" Victor asked, coming to stand beside her. "That a year ago, I thought my life was ending. Turned out it was just beginning. Any regrets? Plenty. But not about this. Not about fighting back. Good. Because I have plans for us. Big plans." "Of course you do." He laughed. "Your father wants to retire in 2 years. Hand over the company to you completely." "I know, he told me. And I'm expanding into new markets. Asia, South America, Europe. I could use a partner who understands international shipping. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an empire. We combine resources, coordinate operations, build something neither of us could build alone." Alara turned to face him. "You want to merge our businesses?" "I want to merge our lives. The businesses are just part of it." It was ambitious, risky. Exactly the kind of plan that could either revolutionize their world or destroy everything they'd built. "When do we start?" she asked. Victor's smile was genuine. "Right now." They spent the rest of the night planning, drawing up structures, identifying opportunities, imagining futures that felt both impossible and inevitable. By morning, they had a framework. By the end of the week, they had a strategy. Within 6 months, Voss Shipping and DaCosta Industries had formed a strategic alliance that reshaped the city's economic landscape. Within a year, they'd expanded into 12 new markets. Within 2 years, Marcus had officially retired, handing control of the family business to Alara. She stood at the press conference announcing the transition, her father beside her, Victor in the front row. "Voss Shipping has been my life's work," Marcus said into the microphone, "but it's time for new leadership. My daughter has proven herself more than capable. She's built new partnerships, opened new markets, and demonstrated the kind of strategic thinking this business needs. I'm proud to pass this legacy to her." Reporters asked questions. Alara answered them calmly, confidently. The girl who used to apologize for wrong coffee orders completely gone. After the press conference, Marcus pulled her aside. "Your mother would have been so proud," he said. "I know I keep saying it, but it's true. You took something terrible and turned it into strength. I had good teachers. You had good instincts. We just helped you trust them." He hugged her. "Be happy, Alara. That's all I want now. Build your empire, change the world, but be happy. I'll try. Good enough." That evening, Alara and Victor celebrated at Rossi's. Their table. Their corner. Where everything had started. "To new beginnings," Victor said, raising his glass. "To surviving the old ones," Alara added. They drank, talked, made plans for the future that felt solid and real. Outside, the city moved on. People lived and loved and betrayed each other, the eternal cycle continuing. But Alara had learned something valuable from her journey through fire. Betrayal didn't have to destroy you. It could transform you, if you let it, could teach you who you really were underneath the performance. She looked at Victor, the man who'd helped her survive, who'd become her partner in every sense of the word, who'd chosen honesty over pretty lies. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I'm glad it was you. Glad you were the one who answered when I asked for help." "Me too." He reached across the table, took her hand. "We make a good team. The best." They left the restaurant and walked through the city they'd both fought to claim. Past the cathedral where Alara had exposed Darian, past Victor's building where she'd first felt safe, past all the landmarks of a war they'd won. The foundation was thriving. The businesses were growing. Darian was dead. The Kozlovs were destroyed. Livia was somewhere in witness protection, alone with her choices. And Alara was free. Free to build, to choose, to become whoever she wanted to be. She'd started this journey as someone's fiancée, someone's daughter, someone's sister. She was ending it as herself. Fully, completely, unapologetically. That was worth everything she'd lost. "Come on," Victor said, pulling her toward his car. Let's go home. Home. The word felt right. Not a place, but a state of being. Safety earned through survival, trust built through truth, love that came from choosing each other with eyes wide open, knowing exactly what they were getting into. Alara got in the car. Victor drove through the city as lights flickered on across the skyline. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, new opportunities to prove themselves, but tonight they'd won, and that was enough.